All right, so Tottenham versus Manchester United, coming up on February 16th. Big match.
Huge match.
And you know you want to sound smart when you're watching it, right?
Well, of course.
We're going to help you with that. We're diving deep beyond the usual stuff you see everywhere else.
That's right.
We're using this preview we found on the Manchester United website to uncover some fascinating historical parallels, stuff that'll make you the most interesting person at your watch party.
We're talking about Tottenham potentially doing the double over Manchester United, something that hasn't happened since, get this, the 1989-90 season.
Wow, 1989-90. I mean, I was around then, obviously.
Yep.
But I don't remember much about that season. What was the football landscape like back then?
Well, for starters, it was pre-Premier League, so completely different ball game.
Right.
But even beyond that, Manchester United, they weren't the dominant force they are today. They were still finding their footing.
Okay.
And Tottenham, they had this incredible team. We're talking Gary Lineker, Paul Gascoigne.
Oh, yeah, iconic names.
Those guys were game changers. And they weren't just a collection of star players. They had a system, a swagger. So this wasn't a David versus Goliath situation back then.
So you're saying that back then, a Tottenham double over Manchester United wouldn't have been that big of a deal?
Not as big as it would be now, that's for sure. Because now, Manchester United, they're expected to win pretty much every time they step onto the pitch.
Yeah, that's true.
But before we get lost in the history books, let's bring it back to the present. These two teams right now, they're both in a bit of a slump.
Yeah, I was going to say, neither team is exactly lighting up the league table this season.
Not at all. They're both in the bottom half, actually. Tottenham's slightly ahead of Manchester United, but only just.
Which means this match is absolutely crucial for both of them.
Every point matters at this stage of the season, and they've also the psychological factor. Think about those recent encounters.
Oh yeah, Manchester United have had a rough time against Tottenham lately.
To say the least. They're actually trying to avoid a third straight loss to Tottenham in this match. Remember that 3-0 drubbing at Old Trafford earlier this season?
Oof, yeah, that was a painful one for United fans.
The one where Fernandes got that controversial red card, which was later overturned, of course.
Yeah, I remember. And then Tottenham beat them again 4-3 in the Carabao Cup.
Exactly. So there's definitely a revenge narrative at play here for Manchester United.
Right. So they'll be coming into this match with a point to prove.
Without a doubt. But they're also dealing with a lot of injuries. Martinez, Shaw, Evans, Mount, all sidelined.
And I heard they're even having issues with their backup goalkeepers.
It's a real headache for their manager. They're going to have to dig deep for this one.
Tottenham's not exactly injury-free either, though. They've got a lengthy list themselves.
True, but there's some good news for them. Vicario, Udogie, and Maddison might be back. And crucially, defenders Romero and Van de Ven are close to fitness.
That could be a game changer, especially if Manchester United is forced to play a less experienced goalkeeper.
Absolutely. Tottenham's attack could really fancy their chances in that scenario.
And speaking of Tottenham's attack, we have to talk about their new loan signing, Mathys Tel.
This kid is exciting. He's already scored a few goals.
Yeah, and with Solanke out injured, he might get even more opportunities to shine in this match.
He's definitely one to watch. And, this is where that historical comparison gets even more interesting. Think about it. Lineker and Gascoigne, they were game changers for Tottenham back then.
Right.
Could Kell be that spark for Tottenham now? A young, explosive player stepping up when his team needs him most?
It's an intriguing thought. We've got this young, potentially explosive player, a team hungry for a statement win, and historical precedent for Tottenham upsetting the apple cart.
Exactly. And on the other side, you've got a Manchester United side that's desperate to prove those recent losses were just flukes.
They're carrying the weight of history and battling a growing injury list.
This is shaping up to be a lot more than just another match, isn't it?
It feels like a clash of narratives, a battle for redemption.
And we're just getting started.
That Fernandes red card in the first match, the one that got overturned, it just seems like, symbolic of how things have been going for them against Tottenham.
Yeah, it's almost like they can't catch a break.
Right. And now they're facing this whole double avoidance thing. Do you think that adds even more pressure? I mean, are they going to be playing with a chip on their shoulder because of all this?
Oh, absolutely. They've got something to prove, that's for sure. The recent losses, the historical context, all those injuries, it all just adds up,
Right, yeah.
to a team that's going to come out fighting. But there's a danger there, too.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, what if they overcompensate? What if they try to do too much, and leave themselves vulnerable at the back, especially with all those defensive injuries?
That's a good point. It's a tough balance, isn't it?
It is. How do you play with the intensity you need to beat a team like Tottenham without being reckless?
Yeah, it's a tightrope walk for sure. Speaking of Tottenham, though, what about their mindset going into this? I mean, they've beaten Manchester United twice already this season. They have to be feeling pretty confident, right?
Oh, they're definitely not lacking in belief, that's for sure. They've shown they can outplay Manchester United, both tactically and in terms of attacking flair.
And those potential returning players, especially on defense.
Huge boost, yeah. But let's not forget, Tottenham, they need these points too. just as desperately as Manchester United.
That's true. They're not exactly sitting pretty in the league table themselves.
So it's not as simple as saying Tottenham has the upper hand just because of a couple of wins. There's more to it than that.
Okay, so we've got two teams, both with a lot to prove, both carrying some baggage from the past, both fighting for their future. This is starting to feel less like a match and more like, I don't know, like a pressure cooker or something.
It is. And that's where those individual stories come in, right? You think about a guy like Fernandes. He's going to be trying to silence the doubters after that red card incident.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And then you've got young Tell, potentially stepping up at a big moment when his team really needs him.
This is where heroes are made, right? Or where the pressure gets to you.
Exactly. And you know what? That's what makes football so compelling. It's not just about tactics and formations. It's about the drama, the human element.
You're making me feel like I'm about to watch a Shakespearean play on the pitch, not a football match.
Well, the best football matches, they are a bit like that, aren't they? The stakes, the tension, the individual narratives all woven together.
I like that. Okay, so back to this pressure cooker. We were talking about Manchester United potentially having to play a less experienced goalkeeper. What are the tactical implications of that? How does that change things?
Well, a seasoned goalkeeper, they bring calmness, leadership to that back line.
Right.
A younger, less experienced player, they might crack under pressure, especially against a Tottenham attack that's going to be looking to exploit that weakness.
Yeah, I can already picture Tottenham targeting that position right from the kickoff.
You know they will. It's a classic tactic. Test the keeper early, try to force a mistake.
So how does Manchester United counteract that? Do they try to play super defensively, shield their keeper, but wouldn't that just invite more pressure from Tottenham?
It's a dilemma, isn't it? Sitting back against a team like Tottenham who are so comfortable possessing the ball and can unlock defenses. It's a risky strategy.
It's like they're stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Exactly. It's a real tactical puzzle for their manager. How do you find that balance? How do you protect a vulnerable position but still be aggressive enough to actually win the game?
It's like a game of chess, isn't it?
It is. You've got to anticipate your opponent's moves, try to figure out where they're going to strike, and then adjust your own strategy accordingly.
And then there's the mental side of it all too, right? The pressure on that young keeper, the weight of expectations on Manchester United to bounce back.
And the burden of history. Remember we talked about that 1989-90 season?
Oh yeah, this isn't just about getting 3 points from Manchester United. It's about avoiding a historical repeat. Imagine the headlines if they lose again.
It would be a major blow, for sure. Could even derail their whole season. But on the flip side, what if they win? Especially with all these injuries.
It'd be huge, wouldn't it?
Huge. It could be a real turning point. Proof that they can overcome adversity.
It's amazing how the result of one match can have such a ripple effect, isn't it?
It really is. And it's not just about laying position. It's about momentum, about confidence, about the narrative each team is building for itself.
Okay, so let's break that down a bit. What does a win or loss really mean for each of these teams? Let's start with Manchester United. We've heard about the pressure they're under, but what would a win actually do for them?
I think, more than anything, it would be a massive psychological boost. To win, with all those injuries, against a team that's beaten them twice already this season.
It would be a real statement of intent, wouldn't it?
It would. It would show that they can dig deep, they can grind out results, even when things aren't going their way. It would quiet all those doubters who are saying, that their season's already over.
Yeah. It would be like, hey, we're still here, we're still fighting.
Exactly. But a loss, another loss to Tottenham. That's a tough one to come back from.
It would just confirm all those doubts, wouldn't it?
It would. And it could send them spiraling down the table. They could lose their grip on a top 4 spot and end up in a real battle just to qualify for Europe next season.
So yeah, for Manchester United, this match it's absolutely crucial.
No doubt about it. But what about Tottenham? What does a win or a loss mean for them at this stage of the season?
Well, I mean, they're kind of exceeding expectations already, aren't they? So a loss wouldn't be the end of the world.
It wouldn't be ideal, but you're right. They're still in a rebuilding phase. There are going to be setbacks along the way.
Right.
But a win would be huge for their confidence. Beating a team like Manchester United 3 times in a row, that sends a message.
It would show that they're the real deal, wouldn't it?
It would. And it would solidify their progress under the new manager. They could start to believe that a top 4 finish is possible, maybe even challenge for trophies.
Wow. Okay, so both teams have a lot riding on this match. A win's a huge boost, a loss is a potential setback, but not necessarily a season-defining moment for either side.
And that's what makes it so fascinating. We're watching 2 teams at a crossroads, both trying to write their own narratives.
And we get to be a part of that, right? We get to witness it all unfold.
That's the beauty of football, isn't it? You never know what's going to happen next.
You're right. Okay, so we've talked about the history, the current form, the tactical battles, the psychological pressures. Is there anything else we need to consider before we wrap this up?
I think the most important thing is to remember that at the end of the day, this is just a game, A game that we all love.
A game that can bring us joy, frustration, excitement, heartbreak.
All those emotions, sometimes all in the space of 90 minutes.
Exactly, and that's why we keep coming back for more, isn't it?
It is. So as you watch this match, remember everything we've discussed. Think about those individual stories, the tactical battles, the weight of history on their shoulders. Look beyond the surface, see those hidden layers we've uncovered together. And most importantly, enjoy the ride. This is football at its best. A story waiting to unfold right before your eyes.
It's funny, we've talked a lot about that 1989-90 season.
Yeah, it keeps coming back, doesn't it?
It really puts things in perspective, right? I mean, back then, a Tottenham double over Manchester United.
Big deal, sure.
But it wasn't like earth-shattering.
Right.
More like a sign of the times.
Exactly. Tottenham, they were on the rise. And Manchester United, well, they were still figuring things out. Hadn't hit their stride yet.
Completely different era in football, wasn't it?
Different world.
And now a Tottenham double over Manchester United, that would be seismic.
It would completely change the narrative of the season, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. Manchester United, they're expected to be at the top, challenging for the title.
Yeah, all those resources, that global fan base, the weight of history.
And for Tottenham to beat them, not just beat them, but beat them twice in one season, talk about an underdog story.
It would be a massive statement. For Tottenham, for their manager.
It would show that in football, anything is possible.
That's why we love this game, isn't it? The unpredictability. All the analysis in the world can't account for those moments of magic, those individual performances that can change everything.
Right. All the tactics, the formations, sometimes it just comes down to one moment of brilliance, one lucky bounce.
And that's what makes this match so exciting. Tottenham and Manchester United, two teams, two different narratives, both colliding on the pitch.
And we get to watch it all unfold.
With a deeper understanding, I hope, after this deep dive.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know I'm looking at this match differently now. Seeing the layers, the history, the psychological battles.
And that's what we aim to do here, to take you beyond the surface, beyond the headlines.
To help you appreciate the game on a whole new level.
So as you watch this match, remember everything we've discussed.
Think about those individual stories, the tactical chess match, the burden of history on their shoulders.
Look for those hidden layers, the ones we've uncovered together.
And most importantly, enjoy the game, savor the drama, because this is football at its finest.
A match with the potential to become a story for the ages.
And you, my friend, you've got a front row seat.
Jack and his 5 chefs.